Well, why does speed matter? Does speed matter? Well, for a lot of times there was a question about that. People didn't really think it mattered. As long as the content gets to the user, it doesn't matter how long it takes. We have a lot of data now from a lot of the big companies, a lot of causal data with controlled experiments showing that the speed does matter. At the Velocity conference this year in June, we saw presentations from Microsoft and Google, AOL. We've seen data from Amazon and others. Study after study after study shows that when web pages load faster, users browse more, they search more, they view more, they buy more, they do more. So faster pages cause the users to do more, so they see more ads. Faster ads lead to faster pages, users do more, they see more ads. It's a win-win. So how do we make ads faster? Well, there's two things we need to look at. We need to, from a qualitative standpoint, we need to ensure that the ads comply with the best practices, the documents that have been published in the past from the IAB in last year this time. But there needs to be compliance with those best practices. There needs to be an audit against that to ensure that that in an automated way you're able to audit the compliance against the best practices, to create a tool to do this so that it's part of your QA process, something that's easy to implement. And the best practices are important, but they don't guarantee a fast ad. You can have an ad that is compliant, but not necessarily fast. There's other factors involved. So there needs to be a quantitative measure of the load speed of an ad. And that, again, can be implemented in the QA process to quantify that load time, identify issues, and then resolve them. The Ad Load Performance Scoring Working Group is working in both of those areas to try to develop a quantitative measure and a qualitative measure, and standards around how those measures occur to create a scoring mechanism that can be used to quantify the performance of ads, the load time performance of ads. We're testing ads in isolation, individual ads in isolation, to focus on the ad, not all the other content on the publisher's page. One important result of this scoring mechanism is it will provide a language, a common language, so that the publishers can specify their requirements around performance, their expectations around how long an ad takes to load on their page. The agencies and the vendors can go to a publisher and say, this is the delivery performance I can offer you for these ads. So kind of a language so the two can talk together, which doesn't exist today. It's also an extension of the ad practices that we have now in the standards. The rich media ad standards identify things like the number of bytes that you're allowed to serve before and after dot complete and different aspects of the ad. So this performance score will extend that. And it will allow, ultimately, independent testing via an IAB-hosted solution to provide a standard mechanism for everybody to score their ads. Now I'm going to turn it over to the two gentlemen on stage here to go into more details. First is going to be Pramod. He's going to talk about the qualitative aspect, specifically the scoring against the best practices. And then following him will be Bryant, who will talk more about the quantitative aspect and the scoring of load performance. Thank you.
Morning. Let me make sure this works. So if you look at web pages in 2001, a typical web page for a top site was about 100 kilobytes. So today, on average, the top 10 websites are at about 300 to 350 kilobytes. So we're pushing more and more down the pipe. But we still need to strive for the best user experience. We try to do this at Yahoo day in and day out. We serve millions and millions of pages today. And interestingly, Yahoo is in a very unique position because we have our publishers like finance.yahoo.com or sports.yahoo.com, and we have our ad-serving platform. So these guys together want to have the best user experience, maintain the best user experience. And the way we do it at Yahoo is we try to have strict SLAs around page load time across all of our pages, which are viewed. The data is viewed every single day to make sure that the user experience is not compromised. And more often than not, of course, SLAs are missed. And now finger pointing always ends up. Publishers are blaming the advertising sides and vice versa. So what we've tried to do is try to build some tools around, so just when the content gets created and when the ads get into the system, just to qualitatively just say that we are going to try and provide the best user experience. So we have some tools like which are built internally and used across all of our publishers, and also now we're going to start using across all of the creatives which get into the system, in-house or third-party ads, to measure qualitatively how good the creative is going to be or the page is going to be. So we have a very simple tool which gives you a letter grade from A to F, A meaning, of course, it's a really good quality creative, and F, of course, meaning like it needs some work. So we've seen enough creatives to really know that if you follow some of the best practices which this tool is going to follow, that you're guaranteeing almost better user experience and going to improve the performance, which is page load time, by 25 to 50%. So some of the best practices, okay, what does creative consist of? It consists of some HTML, some JavaScript, images, some possibly a Flash file. So the first thing is reduce the content. You're sharing space with the publisher's content, reduce the content. Rule of thumb, have no more than 4 components on your creative. It's just easy. We've seen this enough times to say there's no reason to have more than 4 components a page. And also, IAB has some standards around how many bytes you want to push in a creative. I think it's about 40, 50K right now, and it's a moving target as pipes get bigger. So of course, nobody ever wants to see a not found error on your page. You see a publisher page with this little big blank spot, which is not found. Oftentimes, you wouldn't believe it, that we do find creatives in which are pointing to blank resources. That's definitely a no-no. One of the other things we have found is the number of serving domains per ad. So typically, you want to keep that to a maximum of 2 domains per ad. DNS lookups are very, very expensive. There's caching which happens at every single place of the network, at your cable, at your network, and through. So, and they're expensive because they cache not as aggressively, and there are timeouts which happen. So very, very expensive. Ads almost up to 300 milliseconds per DNS lookup. Avoid redirects. I know redirects have been used traditionally to do counting. Definitely, it's not the most advisable way to do your counting using redirects because it doesn't guarantee your counts. Rather, use some beaconing technology after the ad load to do your counting. And the other way you can, of course, speed it up is cache aggressively. A lot of times, your CSS, your framework, your CSS, your JavaScript, or some of the images, they never change. So just by some server-side settings, you should be able to aggressively cache these images. So even though you could get an extra impression, you really don't have to serve it. And the next thing is do some more optimizations. This is taking it beyond just speeding it up. How do you optimize beyond? Compress as much as possible.